comrades and compatriots, revolutionary intelligentsia of our communities, commanders and commissars of the indispensable, insoluble, indivisible, undefeated Progressive Youth Alliance, Makabane re le dumedisa. Re le dumedisa ka lefoko le le reng, that we stand tall as all of us gathered here today surely do. It is because we have been privileged to stand on the shoulders of giants like Thato Magogodi and his crew. We are because they were, and since they were, therefore we are. Motshwara marapo ntitla ke go leboge. Segolo bogolo ke go lebogele tshono ya go ka latlhela tshware le go nyana mo kgetsing ya puo ya gompieno. Re kokwane fa go tla go ikgopotsa le go ithuta gore mophato wa botsietsi mashineng o ne o ikaegile ka eng. Re tla nna ntse re umaka leina le la ga tsietsi mashineng re sa re gore ke ene fela ka 1996 e ne e le moeteledipele, mme re tlhalosa ka Setswana se se reng bogwera jo bo senang kgajane boela mo iso. Kgajane ya nako eo Maqabane e ne le tsietsi mashineng, mme re apaka gore o ne a patilwe ke bokgotso seatlholo le bo moefi morobe jalo jalo. That is why we can stand on top of the highest mountain and declare without any fear of contradiction with that collective that we stand tall as all of us gathered here today surely do. It is because we've been privileged to stand on the shoulders of giants like Thato Magogodi and his crew. We are because they were, and since they were, therefore we are. Now, comrades, in order for us to understand as students of historical materialism that we should be, the political historiography of what took place in June 16, it is important that we understand that what took place on that day is just but a culmination, if not a boiling point, of a plethora of political occurrences that were heated, that took place in our country preceding June 16. Yes. But because I do not want to bore you with the list of granular details in history, let me lift only two for purposes of context and say that what catalyzed what took place in June 16 started, in my view, through what took place in 1953 when the apartheid regime decided that they're going to come with the Bantustan Act 47 of 1953. As we would know, this was an apartheid segregationist law that essentially was trying to formalize apartheid in various sectors of our society. What that meant in real terms, Maqabane ke gore, now for the first time, formally in our history, education would be differentiated according to race. The white children would get privileged education. The black children would get underprivileged education, deliberately. This did not only stop in our high schools, comrades, or in our institutions before tertiary. It also targeted the tertiary institutions. If you study history properly, you would know that a university like Teflo, which was called at that time the prestigious college of Teflo, was deliberately targeted so that when the Bantustan system came, it would become one of the useless Bantustan universities. Underprivileged, under-resourced deliberately. Remember, the agenda here was to ensure that as black people we contribute to the unskilled labor market of the country. So this was the agenda of the 1953 Bantustan Act. So there are many things that took place after 1953, which of course catalyzed what took place in June 16. For me, comrades, the straw that broke the camel's back is in 1974 when the apartheid government decided that they're going to come with the Medium of Afrikaans decree. Now this decree, comrades, as all of us would know, came now formally with this policy that Afrikaans would be a medium of instruction in our schools. What that meant is that the black child would have to study his or her mathematics in Afrikaans. It meant that the black child would have to study his or her geography and social science in Afrikaans. Imagine a poor black child like me and you who are struggling through mathematics through his high school. having to study a complex concept like the Pythagoras theorem in Afrikaans. I guess like Pythagoras theorem. The hypotenuse of the right angle triangle is equal to the opposite sides, the two opposite sides, something like that. Imagine you have to study that complex concept in Afrikaans. Machine by the grand. Yiso maburu bar tloela blind 99. Rabakena, Rai Tanaka, Rai Sosa, Arto Yemena didin, Ebabura Tlankayon. They organized themselves, decided that on this day, June 1976, on the 16th, they are going to march from Morris Isaacson to Orlando Stadium. At Orlando Stadium, they are going to stage a rally there, where they are going to clarify their stance against this language policy of Afrikaans. But you would know, as fate would have it, that they did not arrive at Orlando Stadium. When they were on their march there, the Boers stopped them, the armed security police stopped them and intercepted their march. History has it that students were shot at with live ammunition. But what is important to lift, comrades, from this experience is that the resistance against the apartheid regime now moved from Soweto and spread like wildfire across the length and breadth of the country. What is important to also note about what came after that was that the June 1976 students swelled the ranks of the liberation movement in exile because they were being looked for by the police. Exile. What is important also to note is that it strengthened, the fourth pillar of our struggle, which is international isolation. Because remember, the ANC was struggling with this thing that they were trying to get and mobilize the world to declare apartheid a crime against humanity. But the Mashinini were then given a platform to go to the United Nations and address them on their plight in South Africa. And ultimately, they were able to fortify the chances of the UN declaring apartheid a crime against humanity. And that for me becomes the significance of June 16. That is why we can stand on top of the highest mountain and declare without any fear of contradiction that we stand tall as all of us gathered here today surely do. It is because we've been privileged to stand on the shoulders of giants like Tsietsi Mashinini and his crew. We are because they were, and since they were, therefore we are. Now, comrades, the fundamental question then becomes, what lessons do we draw from this leadership of 1976 to inspire us to grapple with the challenges that face us as young people in our society today? Because we don't want to learn about this history which does not relate to our issues today. I was looking at a study by a research outfit called MISTRA. They are saying that young people today are no longer interested in politics. They're interested in sports, they're interested in film, they're interested in music and all of those things, cooking and all of those things. Only 25% of young people are now interested in politics. It's your responsibility as young revolutionaries to reverse that trajectory. That 75, you need to bring it back in the loop and tell them that all these industries that they're interested in today are actually political by their nature and content and are affected by the political economy of this country. Let's take, for instance, sports. You would know, comrades, that Caster Semenya is being treated badly because of her race. These white girls are intimidated by her, and they're raising all sorts of biological arguments against her which are unfair because they don't like this thing of being beaten by the black girl. You go to the film industry, if you think that the film industry is owned by black people, you are lying to yourself. Yes, you see black actors on the screen, but the majority of those film companies are actually owned by white people. And this situation is political. It's a reflection of the entire political economy of South Africa. Tsietsi Mashinini used to lead their peers through ideas. Tsietsi Mashinini used to influence their peers through clarity of revolutionary theory. Tsietsi Mashinini used to influence their peers through academic excellence. We are deteriorating slowly into a culture where we want to influence each other through money. We are deteriorating as young people today through a culture where we want to influence each other. This thing is not going to bring back our land. This thing it's problematic. It is actually standing against this revolutionary agenda that we are trying to put on the table. So, you know, comrades, you need to learn a lot from this 1976 detachment. Tiro was a teacher who was spent at Essex. He will tell you that Tsietsi Mashinini was one of my best students. Tsietsi Mashinini excelled and influenced his peers on the basis of clarity and knowledge. Tsietsi Mashinini used to take books from Tiro, Black Consciousness, Adibala, after class, despite passing his normal classes. That's Black Consciousness, the history of the African Revolution and all of those things. And went out to influence his peers. That's what they influenced each other on, not the Kabu Kotan. And many generations that came after that, Bopita Mokaba, and so forth and so on, learned from Tsietsi Mashinini. We, as the young lions that grew up under Bopita Mokaba, knew that we could not get away with no clarity of theory in revolution, which is a challenge today. We knew that we had to meet them halfway. They would ask us, Mchana, you say you are a revolutionary. Do you understand the theory of revolution? Do you understand historical materialism? Do you understand dialectical materialism? Do you understand the negation of negation? Do you understand the unity of opposites? Do you understand the transformation of quantity into quality? But don't pride yourself with only vocalizing these things. Pride yourself with being able to internalize them and apply them in your real life of revolution. As Harry Gwala would say, the combination of theory and practice as Lenin contends. So comrades, the point I am trying to make is that Tsietsi Mashinini influenced generations that came after them on intellectual clarity, ideas, revolutionary theory, and most importantly, academic excellence. Isinga politiki ya bukhotane, isinga politiki ya go rekiwa, isinga politiki ya you would sell your own organization to the highest bidder. Whoever comes with money, you're going to join his faction in the organization. So that is one important cardinal lesson that we must learn from the June 1976 detachment. So comrades, we are going to need young people in this country, in the mold Yabo Tsietsi Mashinini, to rise and come to the fore to help us grapple with the challenges that we have in the country today. Quality youthful leaders that cannot be bought, because our country is facing serious challenges. Our movement, the ANC, which is the ruling party, is facing serious challenges. Cronyism, being victims of patronage. Our movement is facing challenges like opportunism. Our movement is facing challenges like narrow careerism. Our movement is facing challenges where young people flirt with askaris that have infiltrated our movement simply because they've become conveyor belts of this vignette materialism that has infiltrated our movement. And we've got to correct that thing. We need quality young people in the mold of Tsietsi Mashinini, in you comrades, to now rise and get into the ANC, occupy positions of influence with revolutionary clarity. You see, comrades, when we talk about quality youthful leaders and saying they must come to the front, we are invoking the very spirit of Tsietsi Mashinini and Khotso Seatlholo. When we say all quality youthful leaders to the front, Makabane, we are invoking the spirit of Peter Mokaba and Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu. All quality youthful leaders to the front is a generational mission whose time has now arrived. All quality youthful leaders to the front is a political agenda we must never betray. All quality youthful leaders to the front is a revolutionary agenda that will liberate all young people in this country and in this province in particular from suppression by the landlords who think that this country and this province must be led by them and nobody else. Look at what they've done now. They've gone to strike a deal with the devil on the PTT that must run our ANC in the province. Majority of people in that list that we saw flying around are people who for the past 10 years have been destroying our province. And we as young people have folded our arms and just looking at these things as if, they've got nothing to do with our future. So we are saying all our young people, all quality youthful leaders must rise and come to the front, because all quality youthful leaders to the front is a generational mission that must never be postponed. All quality youthful leaders to the front is a generational mission whose success we cannot outsource. Ha gona ope o tla tswang go le godimong go tla gore golla mo bogobeng bo ba go buswa ke bo ke dibing ka gole le bo maja ba iphimola ba go buswa ke maipanto ko morago a ntse re busa mo provinceng ya rona. We must rise as youngsters and say all quality youthful leaders to the front. We are rona ba pelo tse thata sawuthatha lo mbutho arisabhasikele sulanda ngevosho sukoba ngama-flakes tichovicho cho phezu kwecho akunabhari ezoncengo la niyabasaba na asibangeneni maqabane amandla asemasebeni. Thank you very much.